If we pull back the business a little bit and just talk about what you're passionate about in general, obviously you're very passionate about your family, your faith, exercise. So maybe we can touch on some of those things. You're a runner, you're a hiker, and this is the Running Real Estate Podcast. So let's get a little bit of running in here. Tell me about some of the things you like to do when you're not in business and you're not in the office.
There's a couple. There's a few things. Family ranks right near the top of that. But running over the last few years has given me an opportunity to experience life lessons in a condensed environment. And what I mean by that is it was August of 2020. And, we touched on, did CrossFit forever. Then I transitioned to working out in the garage and sort of that functional fitness, high intensity training. Loved it. Always liked to lift heavy things. It didn't matter what they were. And during the COVID and the lockdown, I hurt my shoulder and didn't go to the doctor until Mandy made me go. And they're like, listen, you need surgery. Mm-hmm. And it turned into, well, you got to do 4 months of physical therapy before they'll operate, all this. And I just said, yeah, I don't have that. I'm good. Like, I'm not going to do the surgery. I'll just start running. And you had started this running streak where you were running every day. And I remember looking at it online, on social media and thinking, man, that's awesome. I should get out there and do that. And it was late August of 20. I said, you know what? I'm going to go run a mile today. I went in my development and I ran and I walked. And I bent over and wheezing and barely finished that mile. And I said, all right, I'll come back and do it tomorrow. And I kept repeating that process that week. And I ran every day, tried to run a little bit further. And that next week, I came home early from work. I said, you know what? I'm going to run to town. It's 3.5 miles to the high school, and I'll run back. It'll be 7 miles. I can do it. Haven't run that far in a very, very long time. I remember leaving a note for my wife. And I said, this is where I'm going. This is where I should be at these times. And if I'm not back by this time, this is the route I took, I'm on the side of the road somewhere because I just fell over dead. Like, I'm just not going to make it. And I did that run, and it hurt so bad. But I found so much enjoyment in not just the distance, which, 7 miles now would be, if you, I don't
where
know how
you're
to word
at.
that,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't run fast. So I fell in love with it. So my buddy, it was like, who's a distance runner, who's an ultra runner, gave me this book on tape or audio book and said, hey, listen to this. And it was Dean Karnazes, the original ultramarathoner. And he talked about running 100 miles. And I remember asking my buddy, I was like, there's no way somebody's running 100 miles in one clip. And he's like, yeah. He's like, this is what I do. And so I listened to it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to run 100 miles. Everybody looked at me like I'm crazy, but they know if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And from that end of August of 2020 to March, third week of March in 21, so it's about a 7 month, we went from couch to 100 miler in my first
Wow.
one, and just absolutely fell in love with ultra running. So I don't run fast, but I could run for days if you needed me to, and I have in different races. So it's just nothing gives me the opportunity to experience, when I say life in a condensed period, the ups, the downs, the struggles, and how you have to mentally process that, than what running 100 miles or 40 hours or whatever it may be does. So.
Unbelievable. 6 months to 100 miles.
I do not recommend that. By the way.
So I need to get some advice for you because I'm training for my first marathon. I run every day, mm-hmm. but I run short and I run slow. But so what is the definition of an ultra? Is it mileage?
Anything over a marathon.
Okay.
So your real first ultra distance is a 50K, which is 31.2 miles.
Got it. Okay.
I bypassed all that because I figured, if I'm going to do this is a one and done. Like, right. I'm only really getting one shot at this 100 miler. And so that's why I signed up for that first and did it, loved it, and then run some various distances since then. And the longest time, so 100 miles takes me a little under 24 hours if it's a flat course. The longest I've run in terms of time was a 40-hour down in Tennessee in the mountains. That one was tough because there wasn't a predetermined distance. It was 40 hours and how much distance you could get on this elevated course. That one hurt. But yeah, so if you can run a mile, you can run 10 miles. If you can run 10 miles, you can run 50. If you can run 50 miles, you can run 100. It's all about pace. It's about a lot of things, but it breaks down to a lot of people will start running and say, I can barely run a mile or 2 miles. You're running too fast. Slow it down.
Right.
I'll make the argument that, in terms of overall fitness, that the majority of people who run for health are running too fast. I judge it by a conversational, and I do some speed training, but I judge it by conversational pace and heart rate. So if I'm running in an ultra, if I can't have a conversation, I'm running too fast. And that keeps my pace down, my heart rate down. You can't keep a 180 heart rate for 24 hours of running. It's not going to happen. So I'll generally stay in about that 115, 120 range.
So how many ultras have you done?
Let's see. So in 2021, I believe we did 6. In 22, I only did 2, and I haven't done any yet this year. 21, I was just on fire. 22 was a big growth year in the business, so that's where a lot of focus went. Still put in a ton of miles training-wise. I enjoy that more than the racing. And then my last official race was in October, the Hennepin 100 outside Chicago. Well, it's in the middle of Illinois, which was an absolute blast. It's a fast course, it's trail, it's flat, and I had 2 friends that were doing their first 100 with me. So when you pace somebody or you have somebody new to an ultra that you're running with, you can't get tired, right? Because they're depending upon you to not mentally break. So that just takes that off the table. So at no time was I ever thinking, this stinks, I got to quit. You just couldn't. Not that I would, but
you're pulling them through.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. So I'll probably run Mid-State in June down in Tennessee, and I have my eye on a 200 for next year. So I'd like to do that one.
So that's what I was going to ask. How many you've done? In such a short time, in just a couple of years here. Like, what is the lead up to? What kind of training time frame? I guess when you're doing that many a year, so say you're doing 6, you never kind of really get out of train. You're just kind of always going. But now it's been a little bit. It's been since October. You're trying to get one in June. Well, is it pretty soon here where you're going to have to start moving a little bit further?
Yeah, I should have started moving further a while ago. But if I needed to go out and run 100 right now, I could. It would hurt. And I wouldn't do well, but we could get it done.
Right.
I would say that a good workup for me now to run it the way I want to at max capacity is at least a 12-week workup, assuming I have a decent base going. I've not got the best base right now to go out for a 50 or 60 mile week total, but I can get there pretty quick. So 6 in 1 year was too much.
Right.
My body took a beating. It's probably why I didn't run many in 2022. But I love it. The process of the training, and it's not as much as you would think in terms of how much in miles you're putting down, because there's some weeks I pull back, kind of deload to recover. The monotony of that, over and over when you don't want to run and you do long back-to-back, I get so much out of that. So much when you don't want to. Anybody can run or work out or do things in business or whatever when you're motivated. It's when you don't want to run, when the weather's cold or it's rainy and 34. Those are the best times to go out and do it.
Right.
Where I see the most benefit. So,
that's where you set yourself apart from the rest.
Yeah. And to run 100 miles, I had a good buddy that always says, I run 90 miles to run the last 10 because that's where the most growth is for him. I feel that way too, but that can happen for me anywhere from mile 1 on, where I'm like, ugh. What are we doing here? And you just got to push through. So on that, but yeah, I don't know. I love it. I'm not built like a runner.
Yeah.
I'm built like an offensive lineman who shows up and people look at me like, oh, who are you crewing? I'm like, no, bud, I'm getting ready to run here. I'll see you. So enjoy it. Great community, very encouraging. And, I encourage people to do it. I enjoy knowing I can just walk out of my house and start running and I can go to the next town if I want to, or the town after that. And most of that I do pre-sunrise is my favorite time to run.
Yeah.
On there. But yeah, you inspired it. You started all this.
Well, I'm sorry. Sorry to your body.
I feel the best when I am running. I can eat whatever I want, which is good. That's the thing about not training as much, is that my eating does not change, which is undisciplined on my part. But you burn so many calories on that. But I've found, and I'm a huge proponent of exercise. I've been a CrossFit supporter for years. They kind of got away from their mission for a while with the games, but they're back locked on. But of all of that, and this is going back CrossFit 08, before really the games came on. And what I can accomplish physically and mentally, I can do more through running distance. It translates over to other things, more so than I was doing CrossFit or just lifting, because I'd be burnt out in 20 minutes or an hour. My buddy, the guy who introduced me to ultras, he took me on this adventure race one time, and I hadn't started running yet. This was still really high intensity training, lifting and things. And it was a bike, a canoe for 2 miles, or a row for 2 miles in the water, and a run. And you had to navigate. Awesome races, like their time durations, like it was a lot of fun. But we were 2 hours in, and I looked at him, I was like, I'm done. Like, I don't have anything left. Zero. Like, I'm bored with this. And that was, ever since running started, the ultra, I can just do more. I can hike. I've gotten into backpacking in the mountains and in the backcountry, and it translates to, it allows me to do anything physical that I want to. Not as strong as I used to be, but it's okay.
Yeah. So off air here, before we started, you started talking about kind of giving back a little bit in some of the coaching training that you're doing with, I guess, a little bit of the faith piece plus the exercise. Maybe you jump into that a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about what you've gotten into.
Yeah. So what else makes up Hal is service. So I love to serve. I feel that God put me on this earth and to serve. My money, my finances, you always talk about tithing and being good stewards of that, but that translates to more than that. My time, my talents, anything that I have, God gave me, and is to use for his kingdom and to use to serve others. And so that is the piece that drives me the most in anything, is where can I serve others? And not just based on any skill that I may have, but also all the areas I've messed up in my life, right? Which we don't have enough time on this podcast to go over those. How can I help or serve others that are going through similar things, that have screwed up or done whatever? How can God use my story to help them on that? And so that's a big component. Over the last 2 years, 3 years, COVID has my timeline confused. So when I started into the ultra space, with social media, that if you think it, all of a sudden it shows up in your feed, right? I don't know how it does that. Like, you don't even have to speak it anymore. It just shows up. And I was scrolling through, and I started to get all these ultra things, all these distance, 100-mile stuff, people showing up. And I'm scrolling through one day, and I see this guy talking. He's got this long, straggly beard, and he's talking about ultra running. And he's talking about, he had just come off a 100-mile or a win, and then this next race he was on in Georgia, he talked about, it was right in his backyard essentially, right? He was expected to win, and something went wrong with his body. He could not physically push the way he needed to, and he was so frustrated. He's like, I'm supposed to win this. And he kept talking about, that finish line doesn't determine who I am, and it doesn't determine the standard upon which I conduct myself to get there. Whether I'm going to win or lose, I am going to conduct and hold myself to a very high standard that I have set. It's not time to just say, I'm not going to win, I'm going to quit. And I heard that, and I'm like, wow, this guy started making some sense. Like, I like this. So I click on his podcast, and he starts talking about that. And I'm like, this is awesome. Send it to my buddy. And I'm listening to the rest of it. And then he starts quoting all this scripture. I'm like, and this guy is a believer too. Like, who is this? And it turned out to be Chad Wright with the 3-7 Project, and him and his brother run this organization that is based around body, mind, and spirit, and developing all three. It is faith-based, but it's not to go to an event or a course or an experience. You don't have to be a believer or a Christian. So I've been on lots of teams through that organization where that's not been the case. And it's not beat you over the head with it there, but they're going to tell you what you believe in, or what they believe in. Sorry. Right. Chad's retired SEAL. Blake, his brother, is retired police officer. Both are pretty young, in their 30s, and ended up going to one of their events, which a lot of those team guys are running different type of physical things like that, and leadership. You see Jocko is probably the biggest with that. Right. This is a little different because they don't really do a lot of advertising or details on what those events are about. You go there seeking, and that's how it's designed. And it's been awesome. It's introduced me to backcountry and hiking. I've done more mountains than I can count now. I've never done that, met incredible people, teams that I've been a part of that are my core group through there. Since that time, been through a ton of their stuff. They asked a few of us to come back that had been through everything to be instructors. And so been doing some instructing with them now on various events and serving, which is awesome. It's the transformation we see on an event from someone who arrives on a Friday afternoon till Sunday. It's indescribable what is taking place in terms of leadership, ability to follow on a team and things of that nature. So that's been great. That's 3-7 Project. It's been tremendous. And again, it's not necessarily Chad and Blake and everybody else on that crew. It's what God's doing through that, and they're using their talents to serve others with that. So that's where my passion exists. So if I speak of any serve missions that we've done, I'm just following instructions. That's it. But we do a ton of work with the homeless, either in Baltimore a lot last year, which was a different experience. I do a lot in the Bahamas. I'm gearing up for a mission down there, serving youth in a camp that's been going on for some time, love, and really any opportunity that we see. One of the teams I was a part of through 3-7 Project, Team Virtus is our team name, some incredible individuals on that team. There's 10 of us, and we were getting ready for, so we had a hike we did out in Utah where we had a couple spots that was definitely life or death. Like one slip and we're off a 2,000 foot face down and somebody's going to die getting you. So we've been through some stuff out there with that and bonded and had a very good experience as a team. And when we came off of that, we decided to stay together and say, okay, let's go hike some more and let's do this. Like we had such an incredible time. And that has turned into a group that we do life together. And we're spread throughout the country. But on a hike last year that we were planning in the Grand Canyon, as we were planning, one of our teammates said, hey, I'm pregnant. Like I'm not going to be able to go on this one. And so somebody suggested on this call, said, hey, well, maybe we need to transition to, instead of doing a hiking or backcountry mission in the mountains, we need to do a missions mission. Where can we serve? Where can we use what God's given us to serve? And that transitioned that entire team into you'll hear the term quick reaction force in the military, but a quick reaction team or quick reaction force to where there's a need in the country or outside the country, whether it's man-made or natural disaster. Where can we plug in where we can be the most use? Can it be handing out a water bottle, or can it be, hey, we need somebody to come down and take charge, or hey, there's a need here financially, or hey, this is an area we're serving in the inner city. We need all hands on deck. Can you get some teammates down here? And we'll go. Wow. And so we have a yes matrix. We'll take some of those things through very quick, of 3 questions. They all don't have to be yes or no to make that decision. And obviously we keep, certain priorities because we all have families that we don't want to devote all our time to that and neglect our families. And that's been awesome, Ryan. It's brought me the most joy and satisfaction. The more I pour out my cup, the more filled my cup is.
Right. Yep.
On that. And yeah, it's that part of it has been awesome. So yeah, we keep our eyes open and whatever God puts out there to serve.
How many people are in this group?
10. So there's a core 7. And then through various opportunities that we've had in our community, and I say community as a large, that 3 to 7 project community, where we've needed to plug in with someone local where we were going. If we've worked well with them and felt they're a good fit, we've kind of pulled them in.
Got it.
And not from an exclusivity standpoint, but there's certain situations that we've been in, especially in some of these cities, that we need to know the people we're in and be able to communicate non-verbally to just know, listen, we need to get out quick on something. There's some danger to it. But yeah, lots of awesome things there that God has put together with that group that I enjoy. So I don't even know how to word this. So a couple years ago, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, so maybe end of 21, we've just experienced some incredible growth in business. And you asked about this growth question earlier. And I remember sitting down with my partner at the time, and she had said, this is my business partner at the time, and had a great year. We're going through the numbers and planning out for the year, and everything we put in place to transition me in a different role. I remember her going, you don't need to be here anymore. And I'm like, oh, she didn't mean it rudely. She's like, we have worked to where the business functions well with you with kind of an oversight, hands-off approach on the day-to-day. And she's like, so go play golf. And I'm like, I play golf, but I'm not going to go play golf every day. She's like, well, go home and sleep. I'm like, I can't go home and sleep. And I remember her saying, she's like, yeah, no kidding. She's like, this is why God has given us this success, not so that we can make more money and buy more things, because it's freeing up your opportunity and freeing up time for the opportunity to go serve. Right. And that's where your passion's at, and that's what God wants you to do. So go get out of the office. And that doesn't mean I'm not in the office, but when opportunities pop up, the growth that we've experienced and the infrastructure and the team that we have with Tristan and Carol and Kim and everybody is just, it's enabled me to go do that when called. So
pretty awesome. And that's I don't know if it's the pinnacle, but it's what a lot of us strive for in business, is to get to a point where the business continues to run as a business and you can go help others and serve, which is pretty amazing. It is.
But I would say that with a caveat too, that all this could disappear tomorrow. Right. Life is not fair. It could disappear tomorrow. So the true test is, and I don't want this test, but will my actions be the same whether I have a lot or have a little? Mm-hmm. So there's there's a story in the Bible where this lady gives, and she's poor, but she gives more of a percentage of what she has, and doesn't say percentage, but what she gives, versus the rich man who gives, and the amount that he gives is numerically more than the poor person, but who has the bigger heart to do that. And so I strive for that in business, right? Like that's been my goal, is to get to that point. But at the same time, I look and say, all right, this could all disappear tomorrow. You need to have the same heart for service today, and if it's gone tomorrow, on that. So yeah, God's opened up some incredible stuff with that.
As I mentioned earlier, the most interesting man in the room. He's living up to it. We didn't even get into the military. We didn't get into the fact he was a long snapper in college and football, just like I was.
I've been following in your footsteps, and you haven't even known it. You didn't even know it.
I've been following yours. No, Hal, I really appreciate you coming in today and sharing with us. You fit right into what the purpose of this podcast is, and it's called running real estate. So it's truly running a business. It's the ability to celebrate your family, your faith, your health, running, whatever it may be. So I appreciate you sharing your journey with us. For folks that are, have liked what you had to say about your business and how you guys do things differently than some others, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Call into the office, or shoot us a message on the website. Our website's mycwmanagement.com. We're Creative Wealth Management in Maryland. Seek and you'll find us out there. shoot us a message just to say hello. If you heard something on here today that you disagree with, man, shoot me a message. Please, do that. I'd love to hear a different side of that on it. I love people. So, yeah, shoot a message on there. And financial planning is simple. When you boil it down, there's only 4 places money can go: live, give, grow, and owe. You need money to live. That's what you spend. Whatever you give away, whatever you owe, and whatever you save. That's it. It's the only 4 places money can go.
Yeah.
And save, grow, same thing. On that.
Well, don't give away your secret. You make it seem easy, but it's not easy. You do a great job. We really appreciate it. If you guys like this content, please like, share, subscribe. Check out Hal. Look him up. He's going to give you great advice, and he's been, like I said early on in the podcast here, he's been a confidant. He's given me great advice to myself, to my family, and we can't thank you enough.
Hey, we appreciate you greatly, Ryan. So not only personally, but when I refer a client, and anyone in our office does, we know the job's going to get done well, professionally, and as best of your ability, and that's all we can ask for.
And we appreciate that vote of confidence. And once again, it's not just me; it's a team effort. We got Mary behind the scenes here. We have Rochelle in marketing. We have a great team of agents, and like you, we have a common bond where we strive to give the best service that we possibly can. That's what keeps us going every day. So, thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you again next week on the podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care.